Welcome back to another episode of What Are We Watching? Hello, Keith the Mungo. How you doing, buddy?
Hey there, buddy.
Keith and I just had a very strange series of interactions before we started recording this. So I think it's because we have we got a little bit of the sillies this episode. I'm just going to warn you. Keith, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just need a vitamin or two.
So we had this whole bit going about someone stop with the ear thing. All right, so there's been several bits that have been going. I'm not even going to ask you what you watched because this is just going to take up our time.
Okay.
So Keith keeps putting his ear to the microphone every time he stops talking, as if it were like an old-timey, like you needed the phone on the ear and then the one part on your mouth, like two-hand. And so that's what he's doing now, putting his ear up to the microphone.
It helps me concentrate. I can hear the words better.
It's so loud in the mic.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, you were
I was whispering.
you were whispering and then didn't do that. And then the other bit was if Keith came over for a family dinner and was an extremely malnourished individual who keeps begging my relatives for a vitamin, but he can't speak, so he's just like, please.
Just one B6. Can you spare one B6? You don't carry them in your purse. Sure.
So this is so that tells you how our night's going.
Yeah, but you didn't even tell them the best part about that bit. Or are we just not going to talk about that part where I'm
What is
an
the
unnamed guest that's actually I'm a conspirator to the actual bit that's happening at the.
Yeah, so this is a part of a series of larger bits that are going to go on at my family dinner. But
we're not going to spoil it.
We're not going to spoil it. That's in a bonus episode to be determined.
We do need to contact Hollywood for breakaway glass, though.
That's all we're going to say.
That's all we'll say. It's crazy.
Great. So what did you watch? Have you watched anything other than or should we talk about what is in store for October?
It's spooky time.
Woo!
Oh my God! By the time you hear this, it's gonna be October.
It's gonna be October. Go Birds!
Yeah, go Birds! You know what I mean?
The
We're in
Eagles.
the trenches all season. You know what I mean? 12th man, Birds. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Philadelphia on the back.
We don't watch sports. I feel like that's important. Do you watch the
No, I
Eagles?
used to be a huge Eagles fan.
Really?
Huge.
Not since the
tickets
accident?
a little bit, training camp a little bit.
What? Training camp?
Well, I mean, I just used to go to training camp.
Oh, I was like, you were in training camp?
Yeah. I was an athlete.
Yeah.
No, I'm not
Okay.
an athlete. Look at me. I'm a scumbag.
Great. Yeah, what have you... So, it is spooky season, so we have some pretty good things in store for you this month. So, Keith, what are you cooking up for the people?
2 episodes in every week.
Wait, what? What? I, genuinely couldn't hear you.
Oh, you couldn't hear that? That was my car salesman voice. No, I said 2 episodes every week.
Oh, but you said it like...
2 episodes every week.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, that time you got it?
Yeah.
So they didn't hear it. Okay. Well, we're doing 2 episodes every week, one main, one on Wednesdays, and we're going to do a Fright Night every Friday. But it's kind of funny because all the episodes are Fright Nights because it's Halloween time.
Yeah.
You goofballs.
You goofballs. Come on. Get with the program.
Did you...
So we're going to be doing that, and then Keith is going to be publishing, he's going to be pulling together a list of movie recommendations that we will be releasing every day on Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, because nobody's ever done this before. They've done 31 Days of Halloween where they give you 31 movies to watch for Halloween and 31 days in Halloween.
You might be thinking, that's a totally new idea that I've never heard of.
So no one's ever done it.
Yeah.
So we're going to do it.
We will copyright.
Yeah.
So
Sue us.
anytime you hear 31 Days of Halloween, we get a quarter of a penny.
We're looking at you, Hulu. With your little...
We're definitely getting sued after that little stunt right there.
Yeah, for sure. They'll listen to this.
Yeah, they'll listen to this.
Yeah, so we're going to do 31 Days of Halloween. I was thinking, I had a couple of different formats, but I was thinking 31 kind of more classic Halloween-related / movies that are just classic horror movies.
What was that one idea that you were only going to release Christmas movies, though? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
so what else were you doing?
That'd be funnier, right?
Yeah.
And then I was gonna have I wanted to do 2 movies a day, one
Yeah.
classic and then one kind of newer, maybe not as well known, maybe, or just a more crazy movie.
Yeah.
So it'd be here's your classic, here's your wild. Do what you want with them. Don't watch either one. I don't care.
Stop listening to the show.
Yeah,
do whatever
please,
you want.
and don't watch it on YouTube because there's gonna be video soon.
Is there?
No.
Oh. What if you've
We'll
been
just
secretly
we'll just
recording? And you're like, I just need you to look into my glasses right here. Sir.
No, I don't wear glasses, dude.
Yeah, no.
You know I don't wear glasses. I'm not one of them.
Oh, shoot. What do you mean?
You wear glasses.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Anyway, so we got a lot of exciting things coming up. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
So do you want to get into the movie? I feel like we've wasted enough of the people's time.
I will say it's also haunted house time. So we did our first haunted house this weekend.
That's
right.
Sweet.
So we went to Field of Terror in New Jersey, and
Whoop, whoop.
it was great. It
Was
was
it
so
terrifying?
fun. Yeah. So I will say it was opening weekend. I'm assuming it seemed a little understaffed. I would say at some parts.
Are they busy this time of year? Like, do people wait for this
I
time of year?
would say the whole operation was probably light. I felt like it was a light operation on both sides. Also, we had that like impending hurricane. People were probably like, I'm not going into the field. And
be like, life is scary enough with the weather.
So that didn't come on Friday, but whatever storm it was, and then so I feel like it was still like there were still people there, but it wasn't like packed.
Yeah, I feel like we used to go to the like the Bates Motel and stuff like that, and that like if you get really close to Halloween, you can't even. It's like you're waiting an hour or two to get just. To get in.
So that's what I would expect in that place in October. So this place was like a little bit lighter, but I will say all of the attractions were awesome. They were really long. Like
really
the corn maze thing, like. You just went into like a shed and then another one, and you were just going. It felt like 30 minutes, and you were just getting scared.
That's terrifying.
And honestly, there'd be times where you didn't see anybody for a while, so it was even scarier.
Yeah,
and then
it's like the Jaws effect. Like you're not seeing the shark, and that's
and
why
then
it's
they'd
scary.
get you. And I thought the decoration, everything was done really well there.
Yeah,
like it was just a cool setup.
How much does something like that cost? I haven't been to one in years.
$40 to $50 for the whole night
for the whole thing. But it's usually like you pay once, and then there's a ton of different stuff.
Yeah,
once
you got
you're
like tokens or tickets or whatever it is. You go to each event.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah, it was a good time. And then we also did Always Sunny Live in Philly. That was cool at the Mann Center. We went and saw that, and it had the boys. They have a podcast, the Always Sunny podcast, and they were on there with their like I'll call her the handler.
Yeah,
she's
Megan.
Yeah,
she's awesome.
The show. I've actually not listened to the podcast because I'm a scumbag, but the show, I love the show.
It is very good. Their podcast is really funny. Yeah. But I mean, it's basically just like a rewatch podcast of Always Sunny,
and that's I do want to because we actually just started rewatching. We did season 1. We're on season 2 right now.
Yeah, that show is nuts.
14 to go, but they were there, and then Dee came in and did a little. She kicked in Patty's door and made a little entrance. And
that's pretty great. I saw Charlie did like a little. He did the they did the Dayman or the Nightman Cometh stuff. Right?
Yeah. Well, they showed that. Yeah, they did the one song.
Yeah, Dayman.
Well, I don't think they did that one.
They didn't do that?
Nah, they did the Dee and Dennis song.
Oh,
the weirder one.
Yeah.
But they showed the Dayman episode
tiny
at the
boy,
intermission.
Little boy.
Yeah,
that one. Yeah, that's so bizarre.
But yeah, it was awesome.
That's
like,
cool.
We weren't sure because it was raining and it's pseudo outdoors. But
yeah. You park in a field, so that had potential to be.
We were in a balcony seat. I would go back to the balcony anytime. It was awesome.
That's nice. That is a nice venue.
Sorry, that just took up the whole intro.
It's fine. No, I didn't do shit. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
no, we just
that's how it works, dude.
Just kind of hung out. I really didn't do anything too crazy. Watch these. I've been trying to watch movies for our little October thing, and that's pretty much it. Like I said, I'm sorry to be lame.
Yeah, it's so lame of you, dude.
Yeah. All right, next week we're going to be covering my funeral live. That's terrible.
Yeah, nobody's going. That's
the bit. It's
just kidding, Nick.
Let's keep going. So anyway, Keith, what is the movie that we are covering today?
All right, so this week we have the great A Nightmare on Elm Street, Wes Craven's 1984 A Nightmare on Elm Street, the start of a crazy string of movies.
Of a very strange set of...
Yeah, it does get to be strange franchise. But Wes Craven, rest in peace. One of the greatest to ever do it.
Big time. What year did this one come out?
This was
did we say?
84.
84.
So obviously we covered Scream. So we covered like his the beginning of his 90s, resurgence.
Was this his? What was his first movie? Like where was this in
he
line?
has a lot of movies that are not disclosed on IMDb and Wikipedia because they are not of family nature.
Oh.
So he's actually started in a different field.
Uh-oh.
More of the student film related. So anyways, but his first actual film was the Last House on the Left, which is...
Okay. What year was that?
That's 72. So that's like...
Oh, so he'd been around for... I guess I just didn't realize how long he'd been around.
70s, 80s, 90s, and then into the 2000s sprint.
That's pretty good.
That's what I mean when I say one of the best to do it. Like, he really is.
That is pretty good.
So Last House on the Left is like exploitative revenge, insane, especially for the time. I mean, what's weird is his first two big movies are that and The Hills Have Eyes.
Oh, The Hills! I forgot that movie's
when I was
awesome.
a kid, the first I saw of those was the remakes, and they somehow just took those and made them even more brutal than they were. So I've gone back and watched those two. I will say they're okay. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think
the remake's better.
But I will say, I would not recommend those movies to the average person. There's many scenes that will make you not happy.
Lose your lunch.
Yeah, it's the content is a little crazy in both of those movies.
Yeah,
but I
not
love
ideal.
It. So then he had, those were his big ones, and then Jack was actually talking about on the last episode one of his smaller ones, Deadly Friend, which I still haven't watched yet, but they think is awesome. So I'm gonna watch that. But he had Shocker as well. I remember that was one of my first like VHSs as a kid. My buddy had that. People Under the Stairs is another big one.
He really had like I guess I didn't.
So that's
realize,
part of his like 80s to 90s transition.
I guess I just didn't realize like how many. I mean, obviously, I the name, but I just didn't realize how many.
And then he had the original Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Well, is it the original?
Well, isn't that all in like I thought that was all kind of in like is that the one that's all in like the Creature of the Black Lagoon type realm, or am I thinking of a different movie? That's
different.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. Yeah, I'll shut up now. It's fine.
But yeah, he had. I mean,
long story short, he had quite the career.
Yeah.
So this was obviously Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah. So it's directed by Mr. Craven, and it is the writer. Sorry, 1 second here.
It was written by Wes Craven too, right?
Oh, I'm thinking of the producer. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's written. This is actually this one. So he actually does this one, part 3, and then part 7.
Yeah.
Oh, Robert Shea is who I'm thinking of, the producer.
Yeah.
He was a big horror producer at the time, and his wife is also in the movie.
Yeah, he's also the founder of New Line Cinema. If you've ever seen that, they did. I mean, Lord of the Rings was New Line. They've done it. I mean, I'm not even going to get into how many movies they've done. New Line Cinema, but yeah. So it was quite the cast of characters. The budget for this one was $1.1 million, and the box office was $57 million. That's pretty good.
Yeah, this is a big deal.
Especially for it being a horror movie. I feel like we've talked about this a lot, but they traditionally don't do that well in the box office. Did you want to go over the cast for this one? The cast is pretty great, so I'll let you take over on that one.
So you have Heather Langenkamp as Nancy. She's your final girl. Spoiler, damn, fuck,
damn,
dump it. And she's like your big teen star in this. Well, from this, she becomes your big teen star. Robert Englund, he's actually like a well-known theater guy, and then he'd been doing movies since the 70s.
Yeah. He's really big on the what's it called? What are those things called? You have no idea. The convention set, like now.
Well, yeah, he's prolific.
Yeah,
But he stars as the Freddy Krueger, which is awesome. And then Johnny Depp plays Nancy's boyfriend Glenn. This is his first role.
Yeah.
So young Johnny Depp is always funny to watch. And then Ronnie Blakely is Mrs. Thompson. And John Saxon.
Yeah,
he's
great.
The great John Saxon. He's the father, Lieutenant Donald Thompson.
Yeah, Don.
Tina's played by Amanda Weiss or Wiss. I think it's Weiss.
I think it's Weiss. Yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't think there's any other.
And then Nick Corey plays Rod Lane. I mean, I don't even know that actor, but those are your mains.
Those are your heavy hitters. Yeah. And then I think there's just like a bunch of other.
And Lynn Shay plays the teacher.
Yeah.
And very small role for this, but you would see her in a ton of other stuff, including all the way up until Insidious. She's in Insidious.
Yeah.
But she's in a ton of stuff. She's also married to the producer and the owner of New Line, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it really does.
Have you seen Detroit Rock City?
No.
Oh, what?
I know. I'm sorry.
That's like right up that's a Glasses movie, dude.
That's a Glasses
movie.
No,
I feel like you would love that movie, but she plays the mom. When you see it, you'll be like, oh.
Oh, I'll recognize her.
Right away, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was, again, I think it was, I always forget that Johnny Depp was in this one. But this is really similar to like, I mean, like I said, we covered the Scream episode, like another Wes Craven one that had like Drew Barrymore. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like there's been a lot of really young, super famous people in some of his stuff, which I just think is like,
yeah.
I don't know if it was him. I don't know who did the casting for this, but I just think that was like really cool.
But yeah, he also John Saxon, he big actor at the time from Enter the Dragon. I remember him in.
Yeah.
And he was actually like the same role, lieutenant in Black Christmas, which is a predecessor slasher to this. You know, so it's kind of cool that he's in it.
Yeah.
And he's I mean, awesome.
Yeah, he is very, very good in this role, and in this movie, and in general.
Yeah.
Kudos to that guy. Should we dive into the plot, or do you want to? Was there anything else that you had about the cast that you wanted to go over before we dive in?
I will say that. So, as far as like a franchise, this spawns a franchise.
Yeah.
And well, obviously that's so dumb. The first one always spawns. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But anyway,
in a rare case, the third one spawned the first two movies.
Yeah, they go back in time. It's a whole fucking thing.
It's nuts.
Your brain won't get it.
It's like,
so don't.
It's
try.
a glasses movie. Just don't worry about it.
Wes Craven is involved in the first one. He's involved in 3. So how many have you seen the sequels?
No, I've seen 1, 2, and 3. And I think that's it. And then I saw Freddy vs. Jason, which is like much later, but I never saw any of the other ones.
Yeah, so there's
a lot of it. They get really weird.
7 main entries, and then Freddy vs. Jason, and then the remake, which is...
I think after 3, I was just like, all right, what are we doing?
So the general consensus is, I think 1 is the best. Sometimes people will tell you that 3 is better, because I don't know what it is. I think people just don't like the original.
I think the kills are a little more creative in 3, because like once they finally had... I feel like if you're on the 3rd movie, like you got to be a little more creative.
Right.
Like the plot alone isn't going to drive it. You know what I mean? Like,
and they bring back your main. They bring back Heather for Nancy in part 3.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the 3 that people like are the ones that Wes Craven actually wrote.
Yeah.
1, 3, and 7.
Yeah.
Which
I never
is
saw
a New
Nightmare. Yeah.
So New Nightmare is almost like his pre-Scream meta, because it's like meta.
Yeah.
It's like almost like aware of itself. It's not like these movies where you're like in the
you
movie.
Can definitely tell that it was
there's a movie being made.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And Heather's back.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool.
It's really a cool movie.
I mean, he took that format and like ran with.
So those are like the ones that people like to watch. I think 2 is awesome. 2 is problematic, but I think it's awesome. I think it's...
Why? What was the deal with like the Wes Craven? And then we should probably dive into the plot after this one. But what was the deal with the Wes Craven like not doing? Do you know why he didn't? Do
2? Yeah. I just don't think he wanted to do the sequel. I watched. There's a whole documentary on the whole series called Never Sleep Again, and it's I recommend it. It's long though. It's like 4 hours.
Yeah, but they did 7 movies,
and they interview everyone. They talk through the whole movies. They talk through the production, everything about it.
Yeah.
But 2, I don't know why he wasn't involved. Like he probably honestly was doing other stuff. Like he just didn't. I don't think he wanted to do the sequel.
So it wasn't any bad blood.
He didn't even really want a sequel to begin with.
Oh, really?
He thought it was like, oh, there's no way there can be a sequel to this.
I mean, the end of the first one, which I mean, we're obviously going to get to it. It does kind of leave it on like a little bit of a cliffhanger.
Yeah, but he didn't even want that ending.
Really?
Yeah.
We got it. Well, let's save that until we get to it.
But so 2 has a problem because it has a final guy instead of a final girl.
Yeah, it's not the horror trope that everyone's used to.
They write it so he's oriented a certain way. And the actual actor was oriented that way in the 80s. And he hadn't made that public yet.
Yeah.
And this movie kind of did that for him. And there's a whole
other
documentary
such a
called
bummer.
There's a documentary called Scream Queen.
Yeah.
That it's about this movie and his...
Really?
Basically, like...
They like it. I mean, he was basically outed. Like
he was
public.
outed.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
And I haven't watched the documentary. I have it on my list to watch, so I really want to watch it. But
that's unfortunate.
I think aside from all that, I think it's an awesome. I like it. It's way goofier than the first one.
Yeah,
that's the first one where it gets to the point where it's like, like everything's like wacky.
I will say the first one has a much darker tone to it, but the later ones, all the kills are just like so.
Yeah, it's all like
over the top. Like it's like the one where he's like, I don't know, he's like holding the one girl and like feeding her stuff. Like I don't even. Is that in 4? I think that's 4.
I don't know. You remember that one? I watched all of them again last year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was a weird week for you.
Yeah, I watched all of them. I bullet trained them. But yeah, that was the problem with watching all of them. Is like some of they especially 4, 5, and 6. They kind of blend a little bit.
Rightfully so. There's not really much in the way of.
They're all different movies, but like thinking about them, I'd have to like I'd have to like watch again or synopsis them or something to
do something to cut through it. So let's go through this one, and then we can maybe come back, add some content, because there's a bunch. I took a lot of notes about how like you see things in this movie that start to appear in the sequels, like just like styles and dialogue and stuff like that. So this movie starts off. Teenager Tina Gray awakens. She basically is having a nightmare where she's being followed by what's described as a disfigured man wearing a blade-fixed glove. She basically gets attacked in a boiler room. Basically violently wakes up. The last scene is he kind of like slashes at her, wakes up, and then she wakes up and sees that her gown, like nightgown, is cut. So the first line in this movie, which I think is really cool, like the first actual bit of dialogue, was "It's okay, it was just a dream," which I thought that like that is a perfect way to line this up. So her mom comes in and is like, "Holy shit! Like you're screaming. Like, are you okay?" Her mom points out that she has like these slashes on her nightgown, and it's a pretty funny line. She's like, "You either need to stop having those dreams or you need to trim your nails."
I like how that's the answer. We see like
parenting 101.
Like, just imagine having your nails sharp enough to slice like not
clean,
like there's no struggle through them. It's just like slice,
just like a clean.
And I'm like, so that's the first thing I was like, okay, so we're just gonna assume that nothing bad happened to her.
You're like, awesome. So this mom's killing it.
Yeah, she's awesome.
So it's the next morning. She's with a couple of her friends. This is where you're introduced to Nancy and Nancy's boyfriend Glenn. They're basically talking to her, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like it's crazy. Like I have some crazy dreams and stuff like that." And they both reveal to her that they also had the same dream about a disfigured guy in a boiler room, like with the blade fingers. So they're kind of a little bit freaked out at this point. They kind of devise a plan where I can't remember if it was maybe her parents were going out of town, but she was basically like, "I don't want to sleep," like kind of freaked out by this whole situation. Like, let's just have a sleepover, just we're all together. And I guess they agree to it. So yeah, Tina's mom goes out of town. This is where Nancy also confesses to having the same nightmare. So literally like one by one, her friends are like, "Yeah, I've had the same dream," and it's very alarming. I can't. That must have been like, if that happened in real life, like how freaked out would you have been?
And having the same dream?
Yeah, about like the same monster, same night.
All right, so I have to do a segue here. Do you know there's a Nicolas Cage movie coming out right now where he is in everyone's dream?
Yeah, you told me about that.
So that just made me. That's the way you sent me that sentence just made me realize that that's what that movie's about.
Is he Freddy Krueger?
Instead of Freddy Krueger, it's just Nicolas Cage as an old balding man that.
And he basically becomes famous because he's in everyone's dream.
Yeah,
they're like, "Oh my god, you're the guy from
Dream." Yeah.
What a fucking wild dude that
Freddy
guy
Krueger
is.
became famous because everyone saw him in his dream. Nicolas Cage just...
I've never seen Robert Englund and Nicolas Cage in the same room.
They might not be the same. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
Who frickin' knows?
Get you a man who can do it all. That's all I'm going to say. So anyway, so her friends stay at Tina's house while her mom is out of town. Like I said, Tina ends up falling asleep and dreams again about like this disfigured guy chasing after her. Rod, one of their friends, who you're introduced to, that is Johnny Depp. And then Rod.
No, right? Glenn's Johnny Depp. Glenn and Nancy are a couple, and then Rod and Tina are kind of like
I'm sorry.
They have like a relationship where it's kind of on the rocks. It's kind of rocky. So he shows up. I don't think he was actually invited to the sleepover.
That's right. He shows up. Simplify this whole part of and then they have like the wild scene.
Yeah,
where they're bow now bow.
Yeah, I was going to say like there's the machismo scene outside where Johnny Depp and Rod get, they're like doing what boys do.
And so they. Did you have any other comments?
Yeah, well, so then Johnny Depp or Glenn is asleep, and or he's trying to sleep,
trying to go to sleep,
and they're above him or next to him. I forget which way it is.
They're shaking the bed,
but they're having a little too much.
With arms wide open.
Yeah, they're having a little Creed,
a little Creed
moment.
Time. Yeah,
and Glenn says morality sucks.
Morality, yeah.
So he's not partaking.
So
they're partaking.
So he's having a wild time by himself. Not really. So Tina ends up falling asleep. She has a dream again about the disfigured man chasing her. Rod wakes up by basically Tina is like freaking out, like thrashing all about. And then so there's kind of like a lot of these sequences. It has like in the dream world and then in the real world, like what is actually happening. This is like the first really brutal. I think this is the first kill that you see. So it's Tina is basically like ripped to shit, dragged up to the ceiling, and is basically being like pulled across the ceiling as like blood is falling everywhere.
This is awesome. She's getting drugged all across the room.
I would say like to shoot that, that was a really cool shot how they were able to pull that off, like that whole scene off.
Did you know how they did it?
Did they? Was it the camera upside down?
No, they had a rotating room that they made. They
made
a rotating room
so that she would basically just like
and they would
fall up the wall.
There's
basically.
no wires. There's no wires in this. A lot of this movie is all practical, and it's like I was watching in the documentary. They basically go through all the big ones.
Yeah.
But this is the first, obviously, big scene.
Yeah.
And so they're rotating that room, and she's basically being drugged around the room, bloodied, and same with the mattress. The mattress has like I don't know if it's blood packs or what, but
you can see it. Yeah, she slams.
Like, all the blood's
so
going
cool.
everywhere. They basically had like one shot to do most of these things because of the blood.
Well, I think this is like a testament to like some of these movies. I feel like horror doesn't really. Some people are just like, oh, it's just like a shitty horror movie. But there's a lot. I think from an effects, like a special effects standpoint, that you have to be really particular about how things like happen in these types of movies, and I think that's just like. That's pretty cool. They had to do a moving room.
Insane.
So she's obviously not doing too hot. Slams back down on the bed, and Rod is freaking out. So then at this point, Nancy and Glenn kind of wake up because they're hearing like screaming from upstairs. They go into the room where the other two are sleeping, and they find Tina dead and like just cut up to shit. And Rod, the boyfriend, is like gone. He runs away, because obviously
he saw.
They're like, there's no way someone's gonna believe.
He basically saw an invisible man slashing up his girlfriend. and couldn't do anything about it, getting thrown around.
So a little later, he says like, there was someone in the bed like with her, and he's like, how would you have not known that there was someone in there? And he's like, I can't explain.
He's like, I couldn't see him. Every time someone's like, what do he look like? He's like, I didn't get a look at him. I couldn't see him. They're like, what?
It's
you're
amazing.
You're covered in blood.
Yeah, it's pretty great. So it's the next day. Nancy's dad, who is a police officer, arrests Rod. He's basically Rod is like, I didn't do this. Like, you got to believe me. And they're like, yeah, okay, buddy, tell it to the slammer in the jail. So they're back at school. Nancy ends up falling asleep in the classroom, and dreams that basically she's being chased again. She sees her friend in a body bag at the door, basically like trying to get out of it. So she's bugging out, or she thinks she's awake. Like, when, I guess from her point of view, the class is still going on as normal, but over on the side, like out of the door, is just like wild nonsense. So she goes out there, and then it basically has another run-in with this like disfigured man, which is going to be a theme around here. So she's freaking out. She deliberately puts her arm on a pipe to try and like wake her. She's basically trying to be like, this isn't real. Like, this is a dream. She burns her arm in dreamland, and wakes up in the classroom, and everyone's like, kind of like, holy shit, like what happened? Like, you're freaking out right now. Like, you're good. Like, you're going to be fine. And then you notice that in the real world, she has a burn on her arm. Yeah. And the teacher has a really great line. She's like she's freaking out. She's like, all right, I have to go. And the teacher's like, you're going to need a hall pass. I like, just doing nothing. But yeah, what did you want to say?
So when the body's getting drugged, she goes to follow the body.
So her friend in a body bag is being basically dragged by something that you can't see down the hallway. But that's a great scene.
The hall, Freddy is now a girl that's a hall monitor.
Yeah, you're gonna need your pass.
Yeah, so he's in the hall, like it's a girl in the hallway, but it has Freddy's voice.
Yeah,
and then you get the boiler thing. But yeah, she has her arm burned, and then later someone says, "How did you burn your arm?" She's like, "I did in English class," and that's her only explanation. And I'm like, oh, "Okay,
that's pretty great." Honestly.
The person's like, "What the?"
It's like, what the hell? So Nancy, she basically ditches school. She goes to visit Rod at the police station, where he basically is still trying to describe Tina's death along, like, with his own essential recount of the night, where he's like, I couldn't see him, I didn't do anything. You got to believe me. And he reveals that he was also had nightmares about this same guy. So it's kind of coming full circle. So this is where I think this is the first scene where Nancy is like, I think this same guy is who killed Tina. Like, I believe you. We got to get to the bottom of this. which is like that's just the whole plot. It's just so bizarre. I think it's cool that they thought up this story. Like, I feel like now, as I'm like reading through the plot, we're like, oh yeah, this is Nightmare on Elm Street. Imagine if you just had to think of this.
Well, yeah. Do you know, he explains how he came up with the story. How did he do it? So there was this series of guys, like I think it was kids. I can't remember. I think it was in Japan or not. But there was he saw it in the newspaper. It was a series of guys that kept dying in their sleep. Oh. So there was another person that was I guess he was in the same area. Yeah. And he was unable to sleep because he was so freaked out about what was happening. So they gave him
did they like sedate him basically?
They tried to give him sleeping pills.
Yeah.
But then I can't remember exactly what happens, but he basically is hiding the sleeping pills to stay awake because he's so terrified of dying.
That's pretty cool. So not for him, but for the story.
That's how the story
kind of developed.
Yeah. So he like heard that and he's like, oh, I'm gonna Americanize this.
Yeah.
So he like made it, you know what I mean? He put it in America and he put an American spin on it.
Yeah. He made it the teen horror slasher.
Yeah, exactly. He saw what they did with Halloween, what they did with Friday the 13th, and was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that's why I think this movie's cool, because it has a whole different like weird.
Yeah, it has a whole different feel to it. Yeah. I mean, what was in the chain of like those three that you just mentioned, Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Nightmare on Elm Street, what order did they come out in?
So it was like Black Christmas in 74, Black Christmas and Texas Chainsaw in 74.
Okay.
Then Halloween in 78.
Okay.
Friday the 13th in 80, and this was 84.
Yeah, so to do this after these like... This was kind of like, I mean, I think people talk about this time, like when Halloween and stuff came out and Texas Chainsaw is like the beginning of, and Keith, correct me if I'm wrong, but like kind of the golden age of horror.
Yeah, I would say like
around the 80s, but to come in after already have seen Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th, and put a new spin on like a horror movie, that was like...
I mean, it feels completely... to me, it feels fresh. Yeah, I mean, some people might say they're kind of all the same, but I think it's fresh.
This one is very different. I think Friday the 13th and Halloween are very similar in ways. But then this one, there's like a whole other like...
It's a fresh take on the slasher, teen slasher.
Yeah. So anyway, back to the story. So at home, you're back at home. Nancy basically had a chance to talk to Rod at the police station. He's like, all right, I think we know who's doing it. So she's back at her house. Nancy's back at her house. She's basically just trying to relax. She's in the bathtub. And this is like this scene, like, I remember when I was younger, this scene like scared the shit out of me. So she's in the bathtub, and she basically starts like nodding off, and you see like Freddy's claw come up out of the water, and it's just like, the disfigured man at this point.
You don't actually know his name yet.
Yeah. And then she basically pulls her underwater, and it's this giant open ocean type thing, like underneath her bathtub, and so she's nearly drowned. Wakes up, her mom comes up and is like, whoa, what the fuck's happened? Wakes her up. She ends up being good. Didn't die, essentially. And her mom comes in. She has a really good line where her mom comes in and is like, what happened? She's like, I just needed help getting out of the tub. Like she's totally trying to cover up.
Okay, Nancy.
Yeah, she's like, cool, I'm going to go back watching my programs.
What were you doing? Cannonballing in there? Jesus.
Doing belly flops in the tub. Did you have anything you wanted to add to this one?
So it looked like another production thing that happened. Basically, the guy who was filming it also had the claw, and he just basically sat so that was like a tub that had a tank under it.
Yeah.
So he was in this tank with the camera, and then he would just reach with the hand. He said like a whole day of just shooting stuff like that.
Yeah, that must have been like a very
weird thing. Like, here's this weird fake bathtub with the tank under it that I'm just sitting in. She's like propped up on him.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't think about how they had to shoot that
I didn't think about it either. I mean...
But that's the beauty. That is what makes this one cool. They pull off shots that you're like, how the hell did they like? It makes it seem like it's truly like he's stepping into their world, which I thought was like awesome how they did it. So again, freaks out in the bathtub. She then starts relying on caffeine and like, I guess no, she's not taking it.
Yeah, she has she has the coffee pot next to her bed, and that they also found that coffee pot in that guy. The story's based on. Yeah, they found that coffee pot in his closet attached with a extension cord to another plug, like a hidden plug.
That's like even sadder because he was like trying to stay awake.
Yeah, because he didn't want to die.
Oh my god, this isn't as fun anymore.
But like, how crazy is that? Like,
yeah, it is true. It is pretty wild. So Nancy, again, slamming caffeine. She actually, I think right before this, she's in the bathroom. She opens up the cabinet, and did you see the pills, the bottle of pills? It was like Insta Awake or some bullshit, like super...
Like the weird, crazy caffeine pills.
Yeah, and I just thought that was really funny. So she then invites her boyfriend, Glenn, who lives across the street, over to her house to basically say, like, keep an eye on me while I'm asleep. If something weird happens, like, wake me up. So Nancy is basically in her dream. She ends up falling asleep. Nancy sees that the man is preparing to kill Rod in his cell. But then he kind of turns towards her. So she runs away. This is all in her dream. Runs away, wakes up to find her alarm, like, as her alarm clock is going off. So this is kind of another theme that you start to see. If she's starting to set alarms so that she's only asleep for a couple minutes. So it's almost like, if I can stay alive for a couple minutes, I know an alarm will wake me up, which I thought was like, you know, if you're talking about sleep, that's kind of a cool way to combat it. Did you want to add anything to this one?
Oh, no.
That little section? Okay. So Nancy runs away, wakes up, finds her alarm clock going off. She basically is then like, oh shit, we got to go see Rod. Like, I saw him in my dream. Like, basically this guy was after him. So separately in the jail cell, which this scene was fucking brutal. Like, the bed sheet is going up and wraps itself around Rod's neck, rips him out of bed, and basically looks like, I think it's supposed to imply that, like, he hung himself, that it wasn't like he was brutally killed. I think it was like, you know, if you were trying to get into the mind of like Freddy, he was like, oh, they're just going to assume that he couldn't handle the guilt and like basically knock people off the scent, which is just the whole scene was like pretty brutal. So at Rod's funeral, Nancy's parents are becoming very worried that like how she's describing her dreams. You hear her talk about this guy with, you know, he has the green and red sweater on, he's disfigured, he's burnt, and you start to see a lot of like nervous glances back and forth between the parents, which is something that'll come up a little later, which I just thought was really cool. They insist that her mom ends up taking her to a sleep disorder clinic where they basically hook her up to all these machines to try and get a read on like what is actually happening when she starts freaking out. The machine goes like haywire, and when she wakes up, when the doctors wake her up, Nancy is holding the hat that was on Freddy Krueger, who you find out that the name Fred Krueger is inside of the hat.
Right.
And basically she's like, yeah, do you guys fucking believe me now? Like, this is real. This hat's real.
She has cuts on her arm too, right?
Yeah, and she has a couple cuts on her arms too. So this all happens at the doctor's office. There was a really funny line that I wanted to point out in this one. I didn't know if you had anything to add. So they're at the sleep study, and in the doctor's office, they're like putting her to sleep, and the doctor's describing like, okay, now she's in this part of her sleep. Now she's in this part of her sleep. This is where dreaming starts happening. The mom at a doctor's office, I think this is just because we're so far removed from that time, pulls out a cigarette and just goes, yeah, so what even is a dream? And I was like, that same pulling out a cigarette, just going, what even is a dream? I was like, that has happened in like a drunk frat basement. Like two dudes being like, dude, what even is a dream, dude? Like, I don't even know. I just thought that was really funny. So did you have anything to add to that one?
No. That's right. So this is the first time she's smart. I think that's what's cool about this is she's like,
who is
Nancy?
Yeah, I was like, not the mom. She's
no.
Like,
Nancy,
she's grabbed
cigarettes she's like, oh, I'm going to take something from him. She realizes that she can bring something out,
something back.
Yeah.
So this is where I'm going to drop that. Remember, I before we recorded, I was like, I have a hot take about the mom, which I'm going to drop on you while we're recording. Did I tell you?
Yeah, you told me that you weren't going to tell me what it was till right now.
This might be. I'm trying to see. Does the mom or doesn't the mom look like Paul Stanley from Kiss?
What?
Look her up.
I mean,
I mainly noticed it towards the end, and then I'll look up a picture of him, and then look up a picture of him in makeup. It's the same face.
Ronnie Blakely? You think she looks like
in this movie, in this character? I don't know what it is, but she looks like Paul Stanley. And I needed to get your live reaction, because if you were like, "Oh, dude, I totally see it," then I would have been like, "Yep, I fucking knew it." But if not, then I understand. Is it right?
Well, I mean, now that you say, like, now that I have to look at that and that back to back, it's the eyes.
Yeah. Now aren't you going to be picked? It's forever.
That's fucked up, man.
Yeah, that's wild, isn't it? Anyway, that's all I got.
Oh, that's the eyes, dude.
Yeah.
She has very prominent eyes.
Yep, and so does he.
Okay. Well, there you have it.
There you have it. You heard it here
Episode's
first.
over. Okay.
Great. So she pulls the hat out. They go back to the house. There's also like a piece of white hair in the front now.
Oh yeah, she has gray hair now.
She has gray hair now. I don't really know what that was about. Like, what is your take on that? She's just like in shock. Stressed, yeah.
Well, yeah, white hair comes from stress.
Does it really?
You can, yeah. If you're going to go through a really stressful time, you can get
white hair. You can get a white hair?
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, I don't know if immediately, but I think it's obviously exaggerated.
Yeah. Is that why you're looking like a touch of gray model over there, or what?
I'm like a Anderson Cooper over here. Full gray.
Do you have any gray hair?
I have some gray chest hairs if you want to see them.
That comes later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Next week, we're going to be covering... so, anywho, they're back home. They're back home. Her mom ends up barring the house up. She comes home. There's like bars on the window and stuff like that, which is like, kind of strange. The mom's
it's like we live in Compton, so we got to bar the windows up.
We got to bar the windows. So her mom, Marge, explains... basically brings her down to the basement and was like, yeah, this man that you've been describing. Like,
because she says Fred Krueger to her mom. And she's like, it has to be Fred Krueger. It has to be Fred. And she's like,
no, he's dead.
He's dead. And you're like, how do you know?
So he goes to the basement. Do you want to tell us?
Keep going.
All right, fine. Jesus. Anyway, so she goes to the basement. And then the mom basically describes that Fred Krueger, he killed a bunch of kids like when they were younger. Or I guess it was... Yeah, I guess it was when
she was a kid.
When she was a kid, he basically was a convicted child murderer in there, which is, that's kind of wild. But she said he killed 20 children and was released on a technicality. So basically it was like, yep, this made big news, but like someone forgot to file paperwork or someone forgot to get like proper, read him the rights or whatever. I can't remember exactly.
He didn't sign the...
Oh, the what is it when you have to go in, when you get... What the fuck is
search
this?
warrant?
Search
warrant. Spot. He said in the right spot. He said I think she said something like the lawyers got fat and the judges got something.
And the judges got like notoriety. Basically, like the people were like, "Oh, we're just like we were we won this case," but it ended up being they had to let him go. Yeah. So in kind of like a vigilante justice way, a bunch of people from the neighborhood all got together, chased him to this. Kind of like the boiler room where he would like
supposedly killed
the kids, and they burn it to the ground.
Yeah.
There's a really great in the remake of this one, they actually show that scene of like the parents killing him as like the first scene in the movie, which I thought which is a nice homage, watching the later one after this one. Which actually, to go all the way back to the beginning, we talked about the first scene being of Nancy. There's a little like home video of this guy making the hand like glove thing, and you assume that is Freddy Krueger, like while he was still alive.
So you're talking about the very first
first scene is Freddy Krueger making that hand knife thing that is assumed to have killed.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about that because I think the way the movie starts is awesome. Yeah, the New Line Cinema comes with the red and black, and it's like I think that New Line Cinema they should have kept that. It is so cool.
That is really cool.
And then you have that in the boiler room. He's making the hand, and then it goes right into like you. Before the first time you see it, you don't know what is happening.
Yeah, you're like,
but you don't realize that this girl is running through the boiler in a dream.
Yeah,
you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's
but it starts small and gets bigger, right?
What the
image?
Yeah,
it starts small and then it gets big.
They
I thought it was really
blow it
cool.
up. So that was I thought that was just a cool callback from like the beginning to. So at this point, her mom's like, yeah, so we burned him alive. And then she pulls out of like a hidden spot. She's like, I even went and got his his knives.
She just goes into the furnace and is like, oh yeah, here's this wrapped up.
Every time they want to warm the house, they're like, we got to get the murderer's knives out of here. Like,
yeah, get those stabby hands out of there.
Get the stabby hands.
Babe, I'm done.
I'm begging you for a vitamin right now. Because he was burned to death. That was Freddy Krueger in that scenario.
Oh, he needs a vitamin.
Yeah, he needs a vitamin because he's burned to death.
Yeah, he's dry. He needs some. Never mind.
Great. So yeah, then it's just kind of wild. So now the mom, I think everyone's kind of on the same page of like, oh, this is a real dude, and now something actually not chill is happening. I mean, I think they didn't say not chill, but I think you guys get the point. So
and I think there's a quick scene where you see her mom going to. Oh no, I don't think that happened yet. But
no, that doesn't happen yet. Yeah. So basically, Nancy realizes that Krueger, who's kind of vengeful, is killing her and her friends to basically,
like,
get back in the
You did
game.
this to me, I'll do this to your kids. Yeah.
How about it?
It may.
Tony Soprano. Yeah. That's Sopranos has been going well. That's what I was watching. I'm gonna go back.
Oh, okay. So we'll go back to the beginning where you're watching Sopranos. Nice.
Yeah. Anywho, so Nancy tries to call Glenn to warn him. Essentially, like they're the only two left out of their little group. She tries to call Glenn to warn him across the street, but his dad is like, no, I'm not letting you speak to her. Like, you've been acting a little kooky. Like, you're going to the all these these sleep disorder places, and so he's basically like, don't talk to my son.
He's like, you gotta be straightforward with these kids, and then takes the phone
He's
off.
Like, he'll
the
talk
hook.
you tomorrow. Yeah, takes the phone off the hook, and Glenn ends up falling asleep and unfortunately meets his demise.
So it is like quarter to. Oh, I forgot the exact time. I think it's quarter to midnight, and she said, be here at midnight.
Yeah,
on my front porch.
Yeah.
And so he is listening to tunes and watching what he tells his mom is Miss Nude America.
Yeah.
Which
he has a TV propped on his crotch.
Yeah, he has a baby TV in bed, and his headphones are in his record player that's on the table next to him. So he's just like, he's living the best life.
Yeah, he's
10 of midnight.
He's having a time. I think so. This was I'm just wanted to verify this, but I believe this was a time where she said be over at midnight. If you hear on the TV they're playing the national anthem, that was the last thing that they used to play on TV everywhere before they would cut broadcasting
at midnight.
At midnight,
right when he's asleep.
Yeah. So basically, she was supposed to be over there at midnight. You hear the national anthem playing on the TV. I don't think that's like common knowledge today that was a thing, but that's basically supposed to signify like, shit, it's midnight and he is not there.
He's like,
it basically is. I just thought that was kind of a cool little.
It's like,
little
this
thing.
wraps our broadcast, and then it's a national.
Yeah, which is silly. I don't think. I mean, now obviously there's 9,000 channels that never shut off. It's fucking pathetic. Anyway, I was just trying to see if I could let that linger just to make you feel uncomfortable. So anyway, so he's killed by Freddy. Hate to see it. I actually had a note that the way he died, it was that famous geyser, Old Faithful.
Oh, the Old Faithful, yeah. Classic.
It was basically let me read you exactly. Oh, the Old Faithful Fountain of Fun is the way that he went out.
That's good.
Yeah, and it was basically a geyser of blood that shot out of his bed.
Yeah. So Freddy's hand actually reaches out of the bed, pulls him under, including the TV and his headphones, and then the record player.
Yep.
It all goes in there, and then you see the geyser of blood. And the cool thing is they reuse that rotating room. They turned it upside down, and they have one shot at it, and they basically
just had like the
blood
like, dump out,
and they just dump
That's
gallons
smart.
and gallons and gallons of blood water down. But what happened? Oh man, it was a nightmare. So what happened was,
I can imagine. Yeah,
it hit a light. All that water is dumping down there, and it electrocuted the water. And there was a guy down there, like in control of everything.
Yeah.
So he's getting electrocuted, and then the room starts spinning out of control. And so, as it's happening, water is just pouring. The blood water is pouring out on. They're like, so the people are on the outside of this cube.
Yeah, like the moving room,
like the camera. So people are getting electrocuted, and then all of a sudden, it's like terrifying. Knocking all the lights out. So they're just a big black cube just spinning while
full of blood.
Yeah, and then they're just getting covered in this blood.
Was that person okay? That was getting electrocuted.
Yeah, I think everyone survived. But
no, they're dead.
They had one take at it, and it was just like they had no idea if it was going to work or not because they're like, well, and so that's why it actually looks crazier because everything's going wrong while it's happening.
Oh God! Now I got to rewatch that. Now that I know that it was a spinning room, I feel like that would like tie a lot of things together. So now she's alone. What's up?
I was gonna say it's not the only. Have you ever seen Evil Dead 2?
I have.
With the blood that's like at the one point where the blood's just like.
Yeah.
It's like a really similar. Like everything got all screwed up.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's like I feel like it's tough whenever you get a lot of, especially these earlier ones. Like I know we did our Jaws episode. Like Saltwater got all fucking inside of the. Like I think it's just. I guess they hadn't mastered it. I feel like it was also a time where they weren't actually trying to do like.
They're like, all right, yeah, this dude Jimmy told me he knows how to do this, so let's just do it.
My buddy Kyle said he's got a bucket. Let's see if we can make a movie. No one has ever said that. Anywho, so now alone, she's kind of all of her friends are done. Kind of sucks for her. Nancy ends up putting Marge to sleep, which I thought was really funny. Her mom. There's a scene. I don't know why she's like trying to sneak out of her room to go across the street to get to Johnny Depp's character before he's his ultimate demise. And she cracks the door, and her mom opens up the linen closet, reaches into towels, and is like pulls out a huge bottle of liquor, and she's like, "Oh," and just slams it. And I don't know, like
that's what I was going to bring up. I said her mom goes to the, and you're like, "That didn't happen yet." But yeah, it's a really wild, like 1 second scene. You're like, "Oh, okay." So now we really understand that the mom,
the dynamic,
has a drinking problem. She's not completely stable.
Yeah, she put.
But I love the next scene when she finally thinks that her mom's asleep.
Yeah.
And she goes downstairs and she tries to open the door, and her mom goes, "Locked, locked, locked, locked." Yeah. And I'm just like, what the fuck?
The mom is like blasted.
So I'm like, wait, is she asleep right now? Is this the dream world? And it's like, oh no, this is not the dream world.
No, it's alcoholic world.
So she's locked in the house.
Yes.
She's trying to get out.
He's not even on me. Good luck. And we're like, oh no. That's pretty
But fun. One cool thing that happened earlier is Nancy got this book of army tactics and booby traps, and then she's booby trapping her entire house. So this is pre-Home Alone.
Yeah, I was going to say that was actually the next part.
And they actually Wes Craven did this because he actually has read those manuals and it was like super fascinated in like army booby traps.
Really?
So like that's where those come from. They're actual like machinations that people have designed.
Well, she does what were the booby traps? What does she do?
The main ones are the hammer, or like the sledgehammer she has rigged up with
to the
coat
door.
Hangers.
Yeah.
And then she has the exploding light bulb with the tripwire. That was
cool. Yeah,
those are like the two big ones, right?
I think so.
And then
that's pretty cool in itself, though.
Yeah. Gunpowder
and the light bulb trick. It gets him every time.
Even when I was watching it again, I was like, wait, why is she doing this again? And I was like, oh, yeah.
Oh, the old exploding light bulb trick. It's so wild. So she puts her mom to sleep. Basically, he's like, oh, go to sleep. Like, everything's going to be fine. And then across the street, who is her dad is investigating Glenn's death because he's a police officer. She basically says, like, she gets him on the phone and says, wake me up and come break the door down in 20 minutes and wake me up. So she has kind of a plan. Like she realizes that if she's able to pull the hat out of the dream, she's going to try and like pull him out of the dream. So basically time it just so she can grab onto him, wake up, pull him out of the dream. And then she asked her boyfriend when he was still alive, he's like, well, and then you can just beat the shit out of him with like a baseball bat. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to fucking work, but okay, dude.
And yeah, even Johnny Depp at the time, or Glenn, is just like, he's basically like, what do you want me to do? And this reminds me of every like argument that a girl gets you into.
Yeah. Well, this is going to be a super cool take.
No, I'm just saying, like, there's so many, like, I'm not saying this is normal for everybody, but I've been in situations where like there's no problem and then the girl starts a problem and you're just like, but with a guy, and you're like, oh, okay, and they're like, my boyfriend's gonna whoop your ass.
Oh, you're like, saying like the movie portrayal of like,
I'm just saying like it's a relatable thing. You're like, oh no, not again. Please don't do this. Please don't do this.
Yeah.
Like, no, my boyfriend's gonna whoop your ass, and I'm like,
and you're the boyfriend.
This is the classic example where it's like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, you're gonna take on Freddy Krueger. He's like, oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I
mean, I would. But I went to the gym earlier, and I'm sore.
He's like, I've got a hamstring problem, and like, I don't. These hands are registered weapons, so I don't want to use them. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So if you guys remember, so this actually is a really nice tie back into our Barbie episode where Keith said he hated women.
First of all, nobody listened to that episode, so I don't think people even know what the joke was. So now everyone just assumes that what you said is true.
No, he didn't say that. He all joking aside, he did not say that. It was a bit that we had going for 1 second.
No, I think you and Emily started the bit in real life, and then we talked about it on the podcast, and then
yeah,
it was so sweet.
And
so
then
thanks.
So cool. So nice. Back to, but no, I do know.
What does that have to do with me hitting women?
I don't know. I just thought it was something.
You just thought it was like, oh, let's just flame him, let's just trash him. I got to be better than him, kind of thing. Yeah. All right, cool.
Because you can physically hurt me. I gotta.
What makes you think I can?
What makes you think? Are you kidding me? I look like, I don't even know. And you look like you go to the gym. You're a healthy individual, you know.
That doesn't mean shit. I can fall like a tree.
What do you mean?
You ever played timber?
Have you ever played tip or tip? If you can't tip them. Yeah, come into a Target near you.
Yeah, you'll play it soon with your friends.
You thought Twister was fun. Wait until you crack open this board game.
Oh my God, where were we? Just get us back.
Anyway,
here.
so.
Oh, I like how you said, like, just casually, she's like, Dad, come over here in 20 minutes. But it's like a frantic scene where she's
very frantic,
breaking glass, screaming out the window. Mm-hmm. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, but, for the sake of the show.
Sure.
We got to leave some mystery out there. So she, like you said, rigs up her whole house, goes to sleep after her, basically with the protection that someone will be waking her up in 20 minutes, or so she thinks. She wakes up. She ends up grabbing onto Freddy. Her plan works. Freddy is dragged out from like dreamland, and then she runs downstairs and starts basically yelling out the door of like, "I got him! Like I have the killer's in my house! Like come and get him!" So they're kind of going on this big chase. She chases him down to the basement, where this is kind of wild. She's like hiding out with the gasoline,
dude,
and she lights him on fire. And which I think this is interesting because this is the first time that Freddy is like afraid of something, because obviously he was
afraid of fire.
He's afraid of fire. That's Jason is afraid of water. Freddy's afraid of fire.
Oh wow!
Yeah, dude, that's a hot take. I don't think anyone's ever thought of it before. The police arrive and they find out that Freddy Krueger had escaped from the basement. There's basically like flame footprints up to the mom's room. They get up there and they find that Freddy is burning and essentially killing her mom. So Marge is under him and Freddy's trying to take someone out with him. They extinguish the fire, but then
they using a fire blanket.
They use a fire blanket. That's right.
You got to have one of those in your kitchen.
Got to have one. Got to have a fire blanket. Especially.
We're looking at you, Emily Doyle. We know you have a fire blanket in your kitchen.
Just got to keep them on your toes. Yeah. So they extinguish the whole situation, and then Krueger and Marge are lowered. I guess her mom's kind of dragged into the bed, but she looks up like a fucked up Spirit Halloween animatronic, and you're like, like
she gets just
being
sucked
lowered
into the bed. But
they did so many cool things, and in this scene, I was like, you really couldn't, spent the extra couple dollars to get a cool effect. You had to go get like the plastic skeleton that's like rattling as you carry it.
Yeah, it's. I understand it. You said that to me, and I was like, okay, I get where you're coming from.
It is what it is. It is what it is. So then. After Nancy, they basically, I think they end up they're going to leave the room. Nancy closes the door and Freddy comes back. And at this point, she basically is like, oh, it seems like something kind of clicks. And she realizes, she never actually says this, but this is something that is like kind of a theme later on, is that without fear, basically Freddy has no power. So she basically turns around and is like, I'm not scared of you. Like, you're a dream. You can't hurt me. And Freddy's like, oh, dude.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
Watch me turn to blue mist.
Yeah, pretty much. And then Freddy evaporates when he basically tries to jump at her, but she turns her back to him as like, I'm better than you.
She said, I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Who you going to call? The jar of
Nancy Thompson.
The jar of gasoline in the basement. Yeah, that's who I was going to call.
Wait, so we didn't even talk about the booby traps that she did.
Yeah, we did.
But did we talk about it? They work. The
hammer,
the hammer gives him the old. Oh!
He gives him the old.
And then the light blows up on his face.
And then there's like, oh yeah, he basically goes up to her. He's like, oh, what? You're gonna throw a lamp at me? Big whoop! Turns the light on, and it was just basically like dynamite in his face. Which I forgot about that.
Yeah,
so it does work. It's very effective. Before Freddy is, I guess, evaporated, she says like, I want my friends back. Like,
I want my mom and my friends back.
I want my mom and my friends back.
So snap. Okay, you got
Wakes up the next day. It's bright, a little foggy, her friends and mom are still alive.
So the one thing I noticed is at this point, she doesn't have the rash guard on her arm anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh no. Oh crap. So it's a bright sunny day.
Yeah.
She has no scars on her. Like,
not a care in the world.
Damn, mom's alive.
Yep. That's where the Paul Stanley comment came to my mind.
You thought that was it?
Uh-huh. She stepped outside and I was like, I loved your work.
You're waiting for a love gun to pop on, huh? Okay. Nice.
So Glenn's pulls up in a convertible to go to school. She hops in, happy to be alive, and then a green and red striped top like whips over it. The car locks, all the windows go up, and the car like peels away. and she realizes like, fuck, I was at like, she's asleep. Is basically what you're supposed
and
to.
And she's screaming to get out of the car. The car is sealed, so she can't get out of it.
And then you see the 3 girls in the white dress singing the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you.
So mom's at the front door here, and Freddy's hand reaches through, grabs her by the head, pulls her through, and you were more worried about her getting pulled into the bed, but you weren't worried about the dummy that gets pulled through the door.
Yeah, that was pretty bad too. They were really rushing towards the end of this one, I think.
So you thought that was cooler than the.
I don't know what I think.
that's wild.
Yeah, that sucked.
That one's funny.
That was pretty good. So that was the end. So
yeah, the iconic 3 girls singing the song. That we kind of didn't talk about earlier, but that happens earlier.
So they talk about. They said it was like that. So I think when you were introduced to her friends, Nancy says it was like that nursery rhyme, like that jump rope rhyme, like the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you, and like I just thought that was cool.
And those are supposed to be like his victims, I suppose, from the years before. Oh, it's supposed to be. I think that's what the idea is. Those are like the kids. And like I don't know how many generations he'd been doing. If it was just like that. Like I kind of like not knowing. I think it's more creepy. That's why I think the remake, when it really spells it out for you, I was kind of like. I guess we have a story now.
Yeah, you're like,
that movie sucked, by the way.
The remake?
You like it? It sounded like.
I did like it.
No Robert Englund? Why the fuck did they do that?
I thought it was good. I thought they did a good job.
But the thing to me about it is like you have Halloween. He wears a mask. Jason Voorhees Jason Voorhees wears a mask. Freddy Krueger is
no mask.
Robert Englund.
Yeah, that's true.
It's his face.
That's fair.
Pizza face Robert Englund.
How many was?
How are you gonna fucking do that? He's in every one except that one.
Except the remake. Yeah, that kind of.
And that movie did suck.
All right.
I like most movies, but that movie was bad.
So there's one more thing that I'm going to call out in this movie, and then I'm going to give you my rating of this movie.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah, I know.
I was waiting for this so I can punch you dead in your head.
So, what I was... God. So
I have to stop saying that. I say that to too many people. I think it's funny.
Dead in the head.
People, I think someone's going to think I'm serious one day.
I think that's
I'm
hilarious.
Like, punching you dead in the head? Like, that's
funny.
But
it has to be like some mundane
Not in the
thing.
face,
like,
in the head.
In the
head. Hear like a little...
Like, you better get out of this. But it has to be something like so non-threatening that someone did. Like, be like, yeah, you're going to pick up that piece of paper? I'm going to punch you dead in the head if you don't do it. Anyway, so I talked about this a little earlier, how these movies kind of got weird. There's a trope that starts to develop, and this is the first time you see it, where the green and red striped top comes over. That idea of, like, Freddy being, like, personified in other objects... They took that idea and ran with it, like to the exponentially. They were like, "Oh no, the next one's he's only going to be a car." And
that's what you're talking. You're talking about the really
about?
over the top ones.
Yeah, the really over the top kills.
I think when you get to 4, 5, and 6, that's when it really goes.
Yeah.
They really jump the shark, and then they jump that shark, and then they get a megalodon that lives under the water in the deep depths of hell, and then they jump that shark.
And they put a sweater on it, and then they jump it. So. Yeah, I just thought that was kind of neat. It's a way that you can kind of see if you're a fan of the later ones. It's cool to see it kind of tied back like that in the first one. What would you rate this movie out of 10?
10? I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't have a rating system. Is this like the Nielsen rating system?
I don't know. What...
That's like the TV system.
Oh, is it? It's like I don't know.
What do you mean? Like horror, favorite movie? Like just
in general? Overall,
I'd give it like. I'd give like an 80 out of 100. 88 out of 100.
I was going to say an 80 out of... That's an 8 out of 10. So
yeah, I would say 88%.
Okay, I'm giving this a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, you didn't like it.
It's good, but I rewatched it for the show, and I was like, I feel like there's other ones that are better. I love the idea of it. I think it's a really cool idea. But, like, if you compare it to, like, some of the other movies that we talked about at the beginning, like Halloween, Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw, like, I don't know.
I just like it because it's grimy. It's like I'm going to say this, and it's a kind of perverted feeling.
Oh, okay.
Like Freddy has that kind of weird.
Yeah, well, he does a lot of like.
It gets much worse than the other ones, but I'm just saying it's like a weird like. It's not like
he's supposed to be like a creepy.
Yeah, it's not
part of the scary is him being like. Wah!
Yeah, it's not like overly like actually sexual, but it's like always kind of got a weird like grimy weird vibe to it. And I'm like, I think it adds to it. It's like he's a weird dude.
Not
only is he scary, he's creepy and scary.
Yeah. which is a dangerous
But then
combination.
then Robert Englund's like ad libs and stuff. Like a lot of the stuff that ends up in these movies is him ad libbing off of what he was given.
His voice is really awesome.
And then Wes was just like, all right, we got to keep that.
Well, that's fucking
Wait, so
terrifying.
what'd you think about the tongue phone?
Oh, that was cool.
So
I thought it was weird.
So you were cool. You didn't like the convertible boat. You like the tongue car or the tongue phone.
The tongue car.
When she's on the phone and his tongue is the bumps.
And he's like,
That's what I mean. It's like it's not like Porky's perverted, but it's like.
But it has. I mean, to tie
like,
this to other movies, I guess kind of this time. Think about like The Exorcist.
Yeah.
There's elements of like that. I mean, some of the shit that the demon says in that movie is like just completely fucked up.
Yeah.
But there is that element, like you said, almost like a perverted element,
dirty.
to it.
Not even, but not like It doesn't have to be sexual. Just dirty. Almost.
Well, in The
dirty.
Exorcist, they steer hard into it.
Yeah. But
like
I just mean, I just mean overall.
Yeah.
Dirty.
Like in all the in some of the other ones, like Halloween, Friday the 13th. They are straight scary because they're a big killer.
Yeah, there's no dialogue. Freddy brings this whole other element to it that I'm like, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Is it scary? I don't know. I'm not scared of it, but I love it.
It's unique.
Yeah.
So, but I thought this was a good episode. This is kicking off our. I personally think it only goes up from here. All the other scary movies that we cover. If I had to rank this out of like those original 5, I think this is probably the lowest on the list. But I still thought it's a good movie.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Did you have any closing thoughts? I think we're running a little long on this one.
Yeah, so the reason he did Red and Green was because Wes, he was reading. I like calling him by just his first name.
Wes. I call him Krav personally.
He was reading some article where like the two most straining colors next together are red and green.
That's Christmas though.
I don't know. That's what the article said. So
Damn.
He took red and green. Like I guess, and made it striped, so it would be like he would be really hard to look at.
Yeah, it is very noticeable.
And his face, his face also one of the designers of all the gore and makeup and stuff.
Yeah,
he was messing around with a pepperoni pizza, and started like playing with the cheese and stuff, and that's how he designed. his
like
face.
The sauce and stuff. Yeah,
so
I
like when you pull it apart, like where the pepperonis are and stuff, and that's why his face is like has those like holes of skin that just melted. Like,
yeah.
So like the whole
That's
idea
pretty
of
cool.
him being like a burned
pizza.
Yeah, he's
my man's a fried Red Baron pizza.
Yeah. I think that's what I had. I don't know. I just thought all the production that went into this and how I just think I don't know. I think the story is just awesome.
Yeah, and
I like how it's like it's not sci-fi really, but it's like got a whole other kind of weird. And I don't know. I've just had like weird like waking, sleeping, dreaming patterns of not like those kind of nightmares where you like wake up and you're in some weird inception level of a dream that you're like, I don't know what the fuck was just real.
Yeah.
And like
they do a good line of like blurring the lines because I mean in a dream, I mean it's always something that there's a big thing is that like when you're in a dream, there's no real it's just kind of like you're already in something. They do a really good job of like blurring the lines between like, oh shit, like they make it feel real. I think it's a very relatable feeling of like, oh, that would be terrifying if some of these horrific nightmares that I've had actually were like recurring. Other people had them. It was, someone was actually going to kill me in my dream.
Also, have you ever fallen asleep watching, like you're in the middle of a horror movie and you start falling asleep and it becomes part of your dream?
No, I haven't had the privilege.
Okay. Well, I think I just watch too many horror movies at night. So that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
And it will ruin your night.
Yeah.
Because you wake up in a sweat. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And sometimes there's another movie started or something else happened that woke you back up. And you're like, ah.
I
was actually falling asleep a little bit when I was watching this.
That's a dangerous
combination. And it was weird because I would like
movie,
wake up. And this sounds like I'm making this up. But I would wake up. I wouldn't be asleep, but I'd be like kind of like lucid. And I would kind of like rock back up. And I'd be like, oh. And like it'd be like someone was in a dream sequence. I'd be like, oh shit! Like
that was me.
I've seen this movie. This is I don't know, probably out of the mains. This is the one I don't know.
Would you say you've watched this one the most?
I don't actually know.
Yeah,
Texas Chainsaw is probably the one I've seen the most because I like that. I don't know that people don't call that a slasher exactly because it's not the same.
Yeah.
I think it is.
It has like slasher elements.
It really
it's just a chainsaw
is that
instead of a.
Yeah, that and Black Christmas are really the first final
That's the
girl.
one I haven't seen.
They come out the same year, 1974, and they're really the first final girl movies.
Yeah.
Where they have that established, group of teens.
Yeah.
Getting picked off one by one. There's a killer with a reason to kill, and then all of a sudden, or not a reason to kill, and then there's a final girl that's the hero.
Yeah. And I think that is really cool. We talked about that a lot during our Scream episode too, of like the final girl, like I guess story like idea, concept, and stuff. I just think that's like really. I really like that idea a lot. I think it's like I think it's cool because all along, I mean, you think it's like, oh shit, like, I don't know. I really like the idea that one person, usually the main character, sees it all the way through. I don't know. Yeah. I think in with movies and stuff like that, you get a lot of like actors. It's a very like male dominated, like, like Leonardo DiCaprio and stuff, like these big like guy actors. It's just cool that like this entire genre, like the stars of a lot of these horror movies that are like cult classics, is like the final girl, which I think is awesome.
And that's what's cool about this one is she's not only just the final girl, but she's like devising like this plan the whole time.
Yeah, she's like she takes charge of like this. She's fighting back.
She's the one that's collecting the eye. She's like, okay, so no one else is putting together that we're all having this same dream. She's like, okay, I'm gonna pull something out of the dream. Okay, I'm gonna set up booby traps. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
And she's like has the plan the whole time. And you're like, oh shit.
She's gonna get
genius.
Him. Yeah,
I just think regular cool. Kevin McAllister.
Great.
That was stupid.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
That was real dumb.
That's a good movie. We got to do that one. Yeah. But
this is like a pre-Home Alone with the booby trapping.
Yeah, sure. I guess no, you're actually right. But so all right, let's wrap this one up. That was A Nightmare on Elm Street. Did we have any final thoughts? If you're liking this stuff, what we're doing here, I don't know why you would. If you want to give us a review, we'd appreciate it.
Don't do that.
We also, this is just a little side note, we said in our last episode that we had merch out there. We are still working on it. We actually think we're going to be doing a different approach. So we are going to be taking, I guess, pre-orders is what we're going to do. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to have some cool stuff out there. If you guys are interested in any of that, I just thought we should mention that at the end. Keith, any final words, comments?
No, just stay tuned for our episodes and content coming. We got Wednesdays and Fridays pretty much the whole October and some additional content coming. That's all I got. Bird's the word.
Bird's the word. And remember, it's okay. It was just a dream. Until next time.